everybody, and welcome back to This Week in Magic Online Finance. I'm your host, Chaz Andres, and as always, we're going to get started today by talking about the news. One of the biggest stories is that the Arena NDA finally gone. I can talk a little bit about my experiences with the client. And let me just start off by saying the technical stuff is really good. Wizards of the Coast kind of nailed it, and if you haven't had a chance to play with Arena yet, I think you're going to enjoy your experience. Here's the thing though, the Arena economy right now is brutal. Wildcards don't drop enough, grinding packs is tough, getting even a single good standard deck is not easy. So at this point, the way the economy works right now, competitive players really don't have a lot to gain by going to Arena. They're going to all stick with MTGO. And this can change. Wizards of the Coast has actually changed the Arena economy at least twice since the beta began, so they can get this right. But they have to at least consider adopting maybe a dusting system like Hearthstone, something like Eternal does, or at least giving us a bunch more wildcards and more gold if they want competitive players to go into Arena approaching anything resembling MTGO. Right now, I'm sticking with MTGO, and I expect most other competitive players are as well. Let's move on to the other big story of the week, which is that Wizards of the Coast actually announced a brand new Magic format. That's right, it's called Brawl. It's like Commander, except with standard legality and only 60 card decks, and oh yeah, Planeswalkers can be your commander. So I'm not going to speculate on Brawl right now, not on MTGO anyway, where casual formats tend to not do well except in very rare circumstances, and standard cards you need a lot of demand before they start really going up in price. But it's at least worth considering, especially in the future, because if it does catch on, some mythic legendary creatures are going to end up going up in price, as well as some of the format's key Planeswalkers. My favorite Brawl related spec doesn't even have anything to do with Brawl. It's the fact that in that format, Planeswalkers can be your commander. And if they can be your commander in Brawl, why not allow them to be your commander in Commander? So, to that end, older, good commander Planeswalkers, things like Sarkhan Unbroken and Sorin, Lord of Innistrad, might actually go up in price once that rules change comes into effect. I think at this point it really is just a matter of time. Let's move on to gaining ground, where in Standard, the market is still as slow as molasses. In fact, our biggest gainer of the week had nothing to do with Standard. It's Walking Ballista, which jumped 4 tickets from 17 up to 21, and I think that had more to do with the fact that it sees play in Modern Tron, Encounters Company, and even Vintage than it does with anything having to do with Standard playability. So Walking Ballista's underlying metrics are good. It's the kind of card that can sustain 20 or more tickets due to the amount of Eternal play it sees. But it's still a rotating card, which means that some people still have it kicking around their collections due to Standard, and they're going to sell when we get closer to rotation. So if you can hold off, I do think this card is going to drop again before it ends up in that rarefied air of expensive Eternal staples. I'd start looking into buy maybe August, early September. Let's move on to Modern, where Noble Hierarch was our winner last week, and nothing's really changed. It's our winner 2 weeks in a row, climbed another 7 tickets from 27 all the way up to 34, and well, it sustained price tags above 30 tickets in the recent past. Counters Company is really hot right now, Humans is really hot right now, so it could gain a little bit more, but I do think it's pretty close to its ceiling. It hasn't been near 40 tickets in a while, so if you're looking to buy in, I'd at least hold off a little bit longer to see if maybe it dips off a little bit. Now, I didn't want to move on before we also discussed Engineered Explosives, which also gained 7 tickets this week, moving from 40 up to 47. It sees play in Jeskai Control, which is probably the best Jace deck, plus Hollow One, which is still performing like a top-tier Modern strategy. A lot of people, including myself, thought that the card would be reprinted in Masters 25, and it wasn't, so the sky is kind of the limit here. It's probably going to break 50 and may flirt with 60 at some point if it continues to see as much play as it has been recently. Let's move on to our biggest Standard loser, where Concealed Courtyard dropped 2.5 tickets from 6.5 down to 4. And that makes sense, because White-Black Vampires is the only deck anywhere near the top of the Standard metagame that's actually running this card. And it might rebound again over the next couple of months depending on what's good in Dominaria, but just remember that Kaladesh rotates this fall. So these cards are going to drop off for good in late June, early July. I wouldn't be too eager to buy in, even if there's going to be a rebound of some kind. Let's move on to Modern, where it was a bad week to be a Jund staple. Tarmogoyf, Liliana of the Veil, two of the marquee cards in Modern, both dropping 14 tickets this week. Tarmogoyf down to 40, Liliana of the Veil down to 60, and needless to say, the hype around these two seems to be over. This is pretty close to what these cards were at before the Bloodbraid Elf unbanning. Now, Jund is still the most played deck in Modern, so I wouldn't expect these cards to tank too much more, but at the same time, I need to see an actual bottom before I'm even going to consider buying in for any potential rebound. Right now, these cards are continuing to drop, so I'm just staying well away for the time being. Now, our sneak of the week this week is Inferno Titan, a Modern staple that seems to have flown below everybody's radar since it's only about a $2 card in Paper Magic. But it's a 15 ticket rare on Magic Online right now, up from about 5 tickets in January, and that's because Ponza won the Star City Games Modern Open a few weeks ago. He's playing a couple of other decks, and it's in pretty low supply on Magic Online. I think it's going to continue to climb, and if Ponza continues to do well, this is a card that's going to break 20 easily and maybe even approach 30. If you want to buy in now, I really can't blame you. Now let's end the week by taking another look at the MTGO Traders sales data over the past 7 days. And as always, this gives us a great picture at which cards are the most popular, the best actual sellers on Magic Online right now. Now in terms of overall sales, no changes this week, with the exception of casual favorite Relentless Rats sneaking into that number 5 spot over Evolving Wilds. And there's nothing really actionable here, unless you want to throw a couple of hundred of these in your account, just for the long haul, just in case, but I wouldn't focus on that, I wouldn't make it a priority. In terms of rares sold by volume, we've got Vraska's Contempt as our number 1, but it was far enough down that overall list that I'm not predicting anything more than maybe some slow sustained growth, certainly nothing crazy. Our number 2 rare by volume, Blood Moon, which is a little bit more interesting. I don't think it's going to drop any lower than its current 20 ticket price point, and this is a card that keeps getting reprinted, but it also keeps rebounding after it gets printed, so if you want to buy a copy now, you probably should. Now our look at overall value sold confirms my assertion that Modern Jund is falling way off in demand. Liliana of the Veil out of the top 5 for the first time in many weeks. Tarmogoyf was in the top 5 last week. It's out of the top 10 right now. Collective Brutality, Thoughtseize, nowhere to be seen, which explains the price drops on all of these cards. So what's selling well instead? Well, Jace the Mind Sculptor still right up there on top, followed by Blood Moon, Noble Hierarch, Scalding Tarn, and our only standard representative, yep, it's the Scarab God. So based on what people want to play at the moment, it sure looks like blue-based control and humans have the heat at the moment. Not sure I blame them, those decks are awesome. That's it for me this week. Join me again next Monday morning for another episode of This Week in Magic Finance, and in the meantime, if you liked the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. See you next week.